All filmmakers, even the most influential, have to start somewhere, and that includes George Lucas. It's hard to put into words just how important the Star Wars creators' contributions have been to the motion picture industry. From Indiana Jones to Industrial Light and Magic, Lucas has been behind not only the movie business's biggest franchises, but also its biggest technological innovations. George Lucas led the transition from celluloid to digital, paving the way for modern CGI, and his astute business strategies in merchandising showed the world how movies could make not just millions in the box office, but billions at the toy store. He's not without his critics, of course. He's been crowned the king of wooden dialogue, and his constant tinkering with the original Star Wars trilogy over the years has won him plenty of detractors, but whether you love or hate his work, there's no denying that movies wouldn't be the same without the career of George Lucas. But before he became one of the most successful filmmakers to ever live, he was a 21-year-old student at the University of Southern California. The way Lucas tells it, he was really never that interested in movies growing up. At 12 years old, he fell in love with cars and chose to spend his time in high school tinkering under the hood, even racing underground circuits at the nearby fairgrounds. His obsession with race cars was to the detriment of his schoolwork, and Lucas's father, who owned a stationery store in town, was keen on reining him in by dragging him kicking and screaming, if need be, into the family business. A week before high school graduation, George Lucas was in a terrible car accident. Driving home from the library in his street-legal race car, Lucas was broadsided while trying to make a left-hand turn. His car flipped several times and wrapped itself around a tree, the kind of accident that usually results in a fatality. As it happened, George's seatbelt broke, and he was ejected from the vehicle, likely saving his life. The accident resulted in major injuries. His lungs were crushed, he had severe hemorrhaging, his heart had stopped when paramedics found him. After being rushed to the hospital, doctors managed to bring him back. Once awake, George had plenty of time to lay in a hospital bed and think about his life's direction. Soon, he decided to give up racing and pursue other interests. After graduation, he enrolled in Modesto Junior College and studied social science, majoring in anthropology, but his heart was in illustration, much to the chagrin of his father. Around that time, he snagged an 8mm camera and began shooting car races for fun, and soon began tinkering with home movies. His best friend at the time was planning on attending USC to major in business, and he asked George to tag along as he drove up to the entrance exam. Once there, on a whim, George decided to take the exam too, and much to his surprise, passed. Unsure of what to select as a major, his friend suggested cinematography, as George seemed to be enjoying experimenting with 8mm. Lucas agreed and was soon enrolled in USC's School of Cinematic Arts, one of the earliest schools in America devoted to teaching the art of motion picture production. There, Lucas was given unprecedented access to the greatest films ever made, and soon fell in love with the medium. The year was 1965. Lucas's first semester consisted of both a film history class and a class on animation. While film history taught him of the movie makers who had come before him, animation class was his first real opportunity to create his own original works. His first assignment was simple. Lucas was given a 1-minute roll of film, and with it was required to capture a number of basic camera movements listed on a worksheet. It's a fairly straightforward exercise meant only to get students familiar with the animation camera, teaching them how to operate the equipment, check focus, perform pans, tilts, zooms, the kind of thing they teach high schoolers in TV video classes these days. While the other students took the assignment and went through the motions, George Lucas decided to go the second mile and used his roll of film not just to perform the required operations of the camera, but to simultaneously tell a story. What resulted was George Lucas's first real movie, a 1-minute short film entitled Look at Life.
He is not the oppressor, for hate stirreth up strife, while love covereth all.
The movie was a sensation at USC, unlike anything ever produced by students before. The film department entered it into dozens of festivals all over the world, and it won countless awards. Based on this first success, George Lucas was then certain he was meant to make movies. This short is, in many ways, I believe, a microcosm of his later techniques and overall approach to the motion pictures that would define his career, and it showcases three qualities that characterize much of what makes Lucas such a successful artist. First, it demonstrates Lucas's forward thinking when it comes to animation. While Look at Life seems rather run-of-the-mill these days, it's important to remember that, for the time, this was a giant leap forward for student filmmaking. This was made in 1965, decades before non-linear and digital editing systems. Every camera movement, every zoom, every crossfade had to be done meticulously by hand, yet each shot is fluid, and the movie's animation is clean and cohesive. For this first-time assignment, Lucas pulled out all the stops, splicing eye-catching imagery and even interweaving title cards, all the technological tricks available in the classroom at the time. Obviously, as the years progressed and his potential toolbox expanded, George Lucas remained true to this approach and stayed at the forefront of what was possible in motion picture animation. The original Star Wars trilogy is a masterclass in the techniques of the time: stop motion, chroma key, rotoscoping, and more. And the prequel trilogy pushed the movie business's limits even further with computer-generated environments, characters, and things like motion tracking, photorealistic rendering, and integrating live-action and animated elements within the frame are now the standard for blockbusters. Lucas always tested the upper limits of the technology he had available to him. See, he didn't just make movies to turn a profit. He used them as opportunities to experiment with new technology and push the medium further, often going into debt and taking severe financial risks in the hopes that these experiments would be a success. Even as a student, Lucas went above and beyond what was expected of the times. Secondly, Lucas supplemented the movie's visuals with a provocative and breathtaking soundtrack. What separated Look at Life from every other student's work was the music, which hits you right out of the gate. Rather than turning in a 1-minute silent reel of camera tests, Lucas decided to incorporate a score, something that had never been done before at USC. Again, these days it seems as simple as just dropping a music file onto a timeline, but in 1965, Lucas had to do this by hand, and he didn't just hard cut a random song into a finished movie. Each cut is timed perfectly with the beat of the music, and he even mixes vocals over the soundtrack at the film's conclusion. Not only did he raise the bar by including music in his project, he took it a step further by layering sound from multiple audio sources. This meant meticulous planning to properly sync all the required elements. And when you look at George Lucas's later works, there's no denying that he understands the key role music plays in taking movies to the next level. John Williams' breathtaking score in the Star Wars films is iconic, and without it, those movies wouldn't pack nearly the emotional punch that they do. Even Indiana Jones is full of romp and action with just as memorable a soundtrack. Even when starting out, Lucas took advantage of music. Thirdly, and finally, Look at Life shows us that above everything else, George Lucas cares about story. While his peers looked at that class assignment and saw only a list of mundane exercises to run through and get a passing grade, Lucas looked at his homework as an opportunity to do something more. He went beyond what was expected and melded the assignment into a thought-provoking narrative that would strike a chord with the youth culture of the 1960s. He had a target audience in mind and made a movie that would resonate with them. With this first film, Lucas made it clear he wasn't in film school to learn how to be a camera pusher on a Hollywood lot. He was going to tell his own stories his own way. A short time later, Lucas would co-found the studio American Zoetrope with Francis Ford Coppola, and eventually Lucasfilm Limited. The rest, as they say, is history. What can George Lucas's first film teach the modern-day aspiring filmmaker? Mostly, it teaches up-and-coming artists, whether students or otherwise, to go beyond what is expected, and to use even what appears on the surface to be a boring and banal job or assignment as a proving ground for something greater. If you're in school and your professor gives you a simple assignment, like, say, a 60-second camera test, ask yourself, what can you do to make your project stand out from everyone else's? If you're a freelance videographer or artist and you've been hired to make a 30-second commercial for a local business or produce a banner for a local community event, how can you stretch your creativity to its absolute limit and produce a final product that will not only wow the client but future potential employers? If you were George Lucas's classmate in 1965, what kind of film would you have made? Most importantly, what will you make today? Maybe you're an up-and-coming or aspiring artist and you're looking for a way to learn more about a particular craft, but the thought of long-term commitment or shelling out a small fortune for something like film school or an art institute is totally out of the picture. This video's sponsor, Skillshare, can help you make this the year that you learn new skills and take your passion to the next level. Skillshare is an online learning community that offers practical classes designed for real life so you can move your creative journey forward without putting the day-to-day on hold. They offer great classes on photography, film and video, animation, and more, like this class by photographer Brandon Wolfel on Instagram-worthy photography, where you can learn to create great and shareable photos through a 70-minute class that breaks down his approach step by step and also shares photography and Photoshop techniques that you'll return to again and again. Skillshare is incredibly affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month, but visiting the link in this video's description will get you 2 months of premium membership for free. Just visit the link in the description and start learning today.